Section 8.1.15-T, using technology. A simple random sample of size n is equal to 64 is obtained from a population that is skewed right with a mean of 77 and a standard deviation of 24. We want to be able to describe the sampling distribution of the sample mean. So first thing is that we need to identify what is the mean of the sample means. Well, that is the same as the mean of the population. So therefore, that's going to equal 77. Okay, step 2, we want to be able to find the standard deviation of the sample means, which is equal to the population standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. So we know the sample size is 64, and we also know that the population standard deviation is 24. So we're going to take 24 and divide that by the square root of 64. And so this becomes 24 divided by 8, which is equal to 3. So therefore, we can then say that the sampling distribution of the sample mean is approximately normal with the mean of the sample means of 77 and the standard deviation of the sample means of being 3. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to be able to now find, okay, what is the probability of the sample mean being greater than 80.75. Okay, so we're using technology here. So before we do that, we know that we're looking for the probability. So let's draw the bell curve of when it's greater than 80.75. So we know that the mean is at 77, and we want to find the area where it is greater than 80.75. Okay, so we're going to be using technology. So by using technology, we're going to use those values. So we're going to want to find normal CDF, and the lower bound is 80.75. The upper bound is 9999. We know that the mean is 77, and we're using the standard deviation of the sample means, which is 3. So let's go ahead and plug that into our calculator. So we have second distribution, and then normal CDF. And so from here, we're going to put the lower bound as 80.75. Our upper bound is 9999. We know that our mean is 77, and our standard deviation of the sample means is 3. So therefore, we're going to get the following area, or probability. So rounding it to 4 decimal places, we get 0.1056. Okay, now if we wanted to use StatCrunch, okay, so we know that the mean is 77, and we know that 3 is the mean of the standard deviation of the sample means, and we want this to be greater than 80.75, and then we're going to select compute. And then when we do that, we get the following area. Okay, now let's take a look at part C. So for part C, they want us to find out what is the probability of when the sample mean is going to be less than 70.25. So for here, we're looking at the bell curve. Again, we know that the mean is 77, and we're looking for the value at 70.25 and the area to the left of that. So again, if we're going to use technology here, we're going to use normal CDF with a lower bound of -9999 and then the upper bound of 70.25. we know that our mean is 77, and the standard deviation of the sample mean is 3. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have second distribution, normal CDF. We know our lower bound is -9999. We know our upper bound is 70.25. And we know that our mean is 77. And our standard deviation of the sample means is 3. So we get the following area there. So let's go ahead and copy this. So rounding this to 4 decimal places, we get a probability of 0.122. And again, let's see how that's done on StatCrunch. So we know our mean is 77, we know our standard deviation is 3, and we're looking for it to be less than the value of 70.25. And then we're going to select compute, and therefore this is going to give us our result. Okay, let's take a look at part D. So the last one here is we want to figure out what is the probability that the sample mean is going to be in between 74.6 and 83.3. Let's draw a picture to see what that looks like. So we have our bell curve, and we know that our mean is 77, and we want to find the area that's going to be in between 74.6 and 83.3. So again, using technology, we're going to use normal CDF with our lower bound to be 74.6. Our upper bound is 83.3 with a mean of 77 and a standard deviation of the sample means of 3. So let's use the calculator here. So we got second distribution, normal CDF. We know our lower bound is 74.6. Our upper bound is 83.3. We know that our mean is 77, and the standard deviation of the sample means is 3. So we're going to get the following area, or probability. So we're going to round that to 4 decimal places, which is 0.7703. Let's go ahead and put that into our calculator here. We know that the mean is 77, the standard deviation is 3, but we want to find the area that's in between. So we know we have 74.6 as the lower bound. We know that the upper bound is 83.3. Let's go ahead and compute that. So when we compute that result, then we get the following. We get the same probability that we got here using the calculator.